Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stats podcast. For today, we're going over UFC Atlantic City Blanchfield versus Fiorot. First things first, make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, wherever there's social media. There is the Stats and Stacks podcast. It is, I'm humbled to say we did not have a clean sweep last week. But we did hit both our locks. We hit a whole bunch of parlays. It was a phenomenal week. I'm looking to continue this momentum. We started the year on fire. Then we had like a 4-week stretch where it was rough as shit, and now we are back on the train, baby, crushing it card to card to card and looking to continue a trend. I mean, last week I was not confident in many picks, to be honest with you. We got a little lucky with the Andre Lehman bite gate, but we'll take it. This week I feel really confident on a lot of these picks, which probably means it takes a shit. So, hey, it is what it is. It's the world of MMA. We're going to balance back and forth, and we're just hoping to stay on this hot train. So, 14 fights just like last week. No time to ramble on about nonsense. We got to jump right into this card, and we're going to start off the card with some grease. Honestly, we have Angel Pacheco at plus 280 going up against Colin Lackerin at minus 355. I can never say his name, and it's not that hard. Kalen Lofferin minus 355, over 2.5 minus 105, under 2.5 at minus 125. Let's start with Kalen Laughlin. Like, he's someone that I don't know how I feel about him. He doesn't look great on fight tape, but his last few fights I've seen a lot of improvement, to be honest with you. He's not one-dimensional as I thought he was. He could be a little lower volume at times, and he's a cocky little shit. Like, he's someone that you want to see get knocked out. But he seems to be able to take some punishment. He's awfully durable. He has good striking, although it's low volume. He hits decently hard, and it's pretty solid on paper. And he's kind of, what did Michael Bisping saying, a cheeky little wrestling game on him, man. He can wrestle, he can grapple a little bit. His jujitsu's okay. It's not good, it's not bad, it's serviceable. But he seems to have a little bit of a good fight IQ. If he feels like he needs to grapple you, he will grapple you. If he thinks he needs to strike with you, he will strike with you, and he's pretty decent at doing everything. His cardio checks out. I never really see him breathing too heavy. He's not a bad fighter. He's definitely UFC caliber. Again, he's a cocky little shit. I'm not a fan of him. But I also understand he's trying to sell himself. So I'm sure he could be a humble kid in real life. But he's 27, and in the octagon, he's a cocky little shit. On the other side, we have Angel Pacheco. Pacheco was one of these guys from Dana White Contender Series that had a rarity, got a contract after losing. I know we saw that with Candelario, who just got released by the UFC this week, actually. But Pacheco's the new version here. He has a 2-inch reach advantage, which is going to be nice. Pretty good striking. This is the final version of him. He's 32 years old. It's going to be his UFC debut. We do have to pay attention to that. There's a few guys from the New England cartel on this fight card, so this is just another one here. He's unlike his opponent here in Loughran. He throws a ton of volume. The dude strikes and strikes and strikes. When he threw like 190 something strikes in his Contender Series fight in a loss. So yeah, the dude is fluttered with volume. His takedown defense is not great though. That's a concern. He's predominantly just a striker. His jiu-jitsu's okay. Honestly, I'll say the jiu-jitsu's a wash here. In regards to the striking, you're looking at quality versus quantity. Loughran's going to land the harder strikes. Pacheco's going to land the more volume. But then it comes down to the wrestling. I know the judges don't care about wrestling like all year, that it's like a takedown means absolutely nothing to them. But in a very close fight, I want the guy that can get the takedown. And I think Loughran, again, as cocky as he does generally have good game plans. I think if he mixes in takedowns, I think sprinkling those takedowns get him the win. So the pick is going to be Loughran. The bet's going to be Loughran. Next fight of the night, we have Andre Prochowski at plus 195 going up against Jacob Malkoun at minus 240. Over 2.5 is -190, under 2.5 at +145. Let's start with Jacob Malkoun and the fact that he's a -240 favorite. The secret's out on Jacob Malkoun. I was riding Malkoun, like literally Cody. Well, I stayed away from the chalk at Cody Brundage. People knew by then. The Brendan Allen fight, I was all over Malkoun by decision, and he got absolutely robbed. He won that fight. That's bullshit. I was on him against Nick Maximoff as a dog. I was on him against AJ Dobson as a dog. I was on him again with Abdul Razak Al Hassan as a dog. Like this dude is the best, one of the best dogs in the history of MMA. Just solely on the fact that he is a fantastic wrestler and he has a motor, man. He will wrestle and wrestle and wrestle and seemingly never gets tired. He has a good ground game, but he's not getting a lot of finishes. He is definitely position over submission. He's not a killer whatsoever. He wants to take you down. He wants to hold you down as long as possible. When you finally do get up, he literally doesn't even try to strike. He will just take you right back down and rinse and repeat. He's getting 7, 8, 9 takedowns per fight. Like this dude is intense when it comes to his grappling. A sheer DFS god. Like this dude is awesome for DFS plays. Problem with him is that he wrestles so much because he can't strike. We saw his striking in the Nick Maximoff fight. That was predominantly a striker's delight. It was not a delight at all. It was terrible. He looked very uncomfortable. He has a nice little jab on him. That's it. Like he literally, there's no combinations, there's no ill intent, there's no power. It's literally just a snappy little jab and takedowns. That's literally all he has in a ground game. And his chin is very suspect. We saw him get chinned by Phil Hawes. I know Phil Hawes cracks, but we also saw him get dropped by Brendan Allen. We've seen him rocked a few times. The dude, if you catch him right, he's going down, which isn't a good look. So he's not a good striker. He has no chin. But none of that matters when he's on top of you, pounding the shit out of you. The problem with this fight is that he's fighting a fellow wrestler grappler in Andre Petrowski. Petrowski actually is the better jiu-jitsu practitioner. I'll just go outright and say it. He trains over at he's one of the Philly Henzo guys, one of the Philly Gracie guys. Really good wrestling, really good jiu-jitsu, just like Jacob Malkoun. His striking's not great, but it is better than Malkoun's, and he swings to try to put you out. Especially in the Gerald Meerschaert fight, we saw him swing a ton and swing heavies. He knew Gerald Meerschaert as a bad chin, so he really tried to get him out of there. And he did crack him at one point and drop him. So, I mean, he's not a good striker by any means, but he is better at Jacob Malkoun. Problem with him is that he's also chinny. You can crack this dude, and mostly you crack him when he gets tired. This dude's gas tank is awful. We saw him gas out in the GM3 fight. He gassed out against Brian Battle in the Ultimate Fighter. We saw him gas out against Aaron Jeffrey. Every single one of his losses, I mean, round two. We saw him against Michel Pereira. Actually, he just got chin checked in 1 minute. So again, he has a bad chin, and then the few that he did lose, it's by finish here in round two because he's totally gassed. So I would say the wrestling is damn near a wash. We did see Malkoun struggle a little with the wrestling of Cody Brundage. Petrowski might be a better wrestler than Brundage. So I'll just say the wrestling's a wash. Jiu-jitsu, I'd give a slight edge to Petrowski, but the slimmest of margins, it very well might be a wash. The striking, I will give the edge to Petrowski, but by the slightest of margins, like it very well could be a wash. Their chin, neither one of them can take a punch. Maybe give it to Petrowski by the slight of the margins, but I think it's mostly a wash. So you're saying, why are you not betting the plus 200 if he might be slightly better at everything? Because cardio is king. Cardio is everything. Jacob Malkoun weaponizes cardio. Andre Petrowski has zero. There's a good chance that Petrowski gets finished in round two, as he always does, and it seems to always be a submission in round two. So is that a possible glory play? Absolutely. I might be looking at sprinkling a little round two submission for Jacob Malkoun. Otherwise, I think I'm going to eat this chalk, but I do not want him in parlays at all. This is a very, very close fight. The pick is going to be Jacob Malkoun. The bet is going to be Jacob Malkoun, but be careful. If anything, you might want to sprinkle like a sub or round two sub, even if you really want to get fancy. Next fight of the night, we have Melissa Gatto at -155 going up against Victoria Dudikova at +130. Over 2.5 is -210. Under 2.5 at +160. Let's start with Melissa Gatto. Gatto is someone that I wanted to constantly fade initially coming in the UFC, but who has continually progressed. I mean, she's 28 years old, so she's at that age where she's going to keep improving and improving and improving. And I see it, man, especially in her striking. It's not otherworldly striking, but she's freakishly strong. I mean, just look at the girl, look at her arms. She has a really nice body kick, a few good teep kicks out there. We saw her knock out Sarge Eubanks with a body kick. And a nice little 1-2 on her. That's about all she has is a body kick and a 1-2, but she's long and she's lanky, and that's her fighting long and her fighting with some power. So I do like that on the feet. But her bread and butter is her jujitsu. Her jujitsu is world class. She's very, very, very good on the ground. Her wrestling, not so much. She is not a good wrestler by any means. But if you take her down, she is more than able to fight off of her back. Sometimes she gets a little too comfortable on her back. I don't like that. She will play guard a little bit, but she'll have a 2-inch reach advantage here. She's fought the much better girls: Ariana Lipsky, Tracy Cortez, Sarge Eubanks is actually very good. Carol Hosa, tapping her is not an easy feat, and that's before the UFC. So those are three like top 10, top 15 girls right off the bat. So very, very good level of competition. Close fights. The Tracy Cortez fight was close. Ariana Lipsky fight, I thought she won and got robbed by the judges. Again, 63% takedown defense, which I don't like. But a lot of that was Tracy Cortez. I think Tracy took her down like 3 or 4 times, and she's only been taken down like 5 times in the UFC. So it's mostly just the Tracy treatment. I don't know. She's just getting better and better. Her cardio seems to check out. There's not really any negatives about her outside of her wrestling. Good news for her is that she's fighting Victoria Dudikova, who's not the greatest wrestler. She's also someone that wants to play on the ground. She's 8-0 coming off of Contender Series. I did lie. She had one fight against Jinyu Frey. But she's 26 years old. Let me pull the screen back up here. She's 26 years old. That's pretty young, man. Like, she's not old whatsoever. Sorry, let me stop sharing this. Running into some technical difficulties. Yeah, but 26 years old. And she fights like it. Her striking's not good whatsoever. Her jujitsu is pretty decent, but I do think Gatto's jujitsu is better. And she's someone that goes out there and just tries to muscle girls to the ground in regards to her wrestling. She's not a good wrestler. I really only realistically seen her do body locks. And she just straight muscles you down from the body lock. Problem with that is that Gatto's bigger, Gatto's stronger, and this is Dudikova going up a weight class. Her last fight, she missed weight against Jinyu Frey, and now the UFC is telling her, hey, you have to go up a weight class. We don't trust you to make 115 anymore. Your next fight's going to be at 125. And here she is going against one of the biggest girls at 125. So I don't think she'll be able to muscle her to the ground. And she herself has 50% takedown defense. And she herself will play guard down there. I've seen her pull guard. Do not pull guard against Melissa Gatto. I think that is a terrible, terrible idea. If she's forced to strike, her striking has improved, just like Gatto. It's gotten much better. She's a lot faster. She has pretty fast hands when she decides to throw. But she just looks uncomfortable and she doesn't like getting hit. And again, Gatto's going to have that 2-inch reach advantage, and she fights long. So on the feet, although I think Victoria has the cleaner hands, I think Gatto will land the bigger shots and be able to keep her distance. When it comes down to the ground game, I do think Gatto is a touch better. She has the better cardio. She'll be the bigger girl. Everything is advantage Gatto outside of maybe the wrestling, but neither one can wrestle, and both of them like being on the ground anyway. So the pick is going to be Gatto. The bet's going to be Gatto. Just the better skill set, the bigger girl, the better competition. Pick Gatto, bet Gatto. Next fight of the night, we are looking at the main event, the real people's main event. Ibo Aslan minus 125 going against the pleasure man himself, Anton Chakurli at plus 105. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is minus 105. Under 1.5 at minus 125. First, let's start with this bitch ass Ibu. The reason we're starting with him is because he has good striking. He carries a ton of power. I mean, look at the dude. Let me be careful calling him a bitch ass. I don't need him finding me anywhere. Dude's striking's pretty decent, and he just hits very, very hard. That's all he has. I cannot stand one-dimensional fighters. He's coming off Dana White Contender Series. He's 27 years old. He's gotten a little better, And he's still a one-trick pony. He goes out there, he tries to knock you out in round one, and if he doesn't, he generally loses. When you look at all of his wins, he has one win in round three, I believe. Where is it? Yeah, he has one win in round three. All the rest of his wins are in round one by KO. He's the most one-dimensional guy I've ever seen in my life. His wrestling's not great. His submission is his ground game is god awful. He's probably on the sauce. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think he did pop for steroids once. So that does concern me a little bit here. Especially with USADA gone. He's cocky as shit. He's another one just like Loughran when he's in the octagon. He's in there talking trash and being just fucking annoying. But for such a big guy, he's a little bit of a glass cannon, man. He will dish it out, but if you hit him back, he does not have good reactions. He covers up, he backs up, he shells up. It's not a good look. Once you get him out of round one, though, he's just absolutely trash. All you have to do is survive. And his schedule's god awful. Like when you look at the guys he fought and beat, the guys he beating. I mean, he fought Paulo Renato Jr. on the Contender Series. Ronaldo Jr. is someone that used to fight at welterweight. This is at 205. Like this dude was fighting up three weight classes, and sure, he knocks him out. And mind you, Ebo got cracked in that first round. He also fought a guy that was 5-9, 18-21. It's at 6-7. So where's the winning record? 8-14, still no winning record. 4-0. There you go. He fought someone that was 4-0. 1-2, 0-0. Doesn't even have a record. 0-7, 0-0, doesn't even have a record. So he officially fought three guys out of his entire career. He has a 13-fight career. Three men have had winning records that he's fought. And honestly, one of them was a welterweight. One of them, it was his fifth career fight. And the other man was a loss to the pleasure man, Anton Chikirli, the man he is fighting this Saturday. Here's the deal with Anton. He's the man. I love Anton. He's 27 years old. He's got a decent little grappling game on him. He's an okay wrestler. His striking, it's serviceable. He knows what he's doing on the feet. He's not good at it, but he knows what he's supposed to be doing. He's predominantly a jiu-jitsu guy. He's just I talk about Ebo being very cocky. Anton's the funniest guy ever. I think he's hilarious. He gives the best interviews. He's a little low volume. He's pretty damn hittable on the feet. And just like Ebo, if you hit him, he has very bad reactions. I want to say he might be a little low-key chinny as well. When they first fought, he got cracked a few times. And it didn't look good. He was wobbled quite a bit. The ref could have stopped in and ended the fight, to be honest with you. But he didn't. They let it continue, and he was able to eventually get that win with his ground game. He survived round one, got a takedown in round two, and that was all she wrote. He subbed him pretty easily once he got him down to the ground. It's just people are saying he's overrated. Yeah, he hasn't fought the best competition either. But he has three career losses. He's 0-3 in the UFC. But can we please look at his record? Like, honestly, he lost to Jailton Almeida at a catchweight at 220. So he went up a weight class to fight Jailton Almeida at basically heavyweight. So cut him a little slack there on short notice. He then fought who people are dubbing as a future champion in Vitor Petrino and managed to give him hell. That was a very, very, very close fight. And as like chinny as Anton may be, he survived the punches there. And the loss to Tyson Pedro didn't look good. I'll give him that. But he did fight Tyson Pedro in Tyson Pedro's hometown. He fought a savvy vet in his hometown. I mean, shit happened. So he fought Jailton up a weight class. He fought Vitor Petrino, and then he fought Tyson Pedro, who's a serviceable fighter in his hometown. Like those are his three fights. Cut him some slack. They all hit hard as well. So for someone that's a little chinny, he only got chin checked in one of those. So I'll give it to him. The guy is a decent fighter. It's just he's so fucking hittable. Like when they're on the feet, he's in serious, serious trouble. If he gets this to the ground, he's gonna tap out Ebo easily. But if he's not able to get the takedown quick, he's in some serious trouble. The right thing to do is to bet Ebo. I really do think Ebo's probably gonna win this fight. However, Anton has already beat Ebo. They had bad blood going into the first fight. Like they didn't touch gloves. They were talking shit to each other. They're going to be even more mad this go around. And Anton, if you're confidence is kind of shaken. You're 0-3 in a promotion. You're getting someone that you already beat. You're going in with some confidence. He needs that. He's a pleasure man, for God's sake. And lastly, he's the dog. He is plus money, and he won the original matchup. Again, did he get cracked and almost knocked out in the first one? Yeah, but that was a almost. Did he sub Ebo in the first one? Yeah, and that was a definitive thing that happened. So, although I think this is a little bit of a setup spot for Ebo to get some retribution, the plus money is going to make me go the other way. So the pick is going to be Anton. The bet's going to be the pleasure man. You never turn your back on your boys. Next fight of the night. We have another one. We might be going back to back dog hunting here with Connor Matthews at plus 110, going up against Dennis Bazukia at minus 130. Over 2.5 is minus 165. Under 2.5 at plus 130. Let's start with Dennis Bazukia. And again, I apologize for all of the technical issues I'm having, but we're gonna soldier through this thing. Dennis Bazukia sucks. I don't think he's that good, to be honest with you. I believed in him initially in his initial stint in the UFC when he was coming in. I was like, oh, it's a guy coming out of Longo MMA. He probably has decent wrestling. He's from the New York area. I'm from New York. I want to bet my dude. I bet him against Sean Woodson, and it looked absolutely terrible. Although he trains at Longo MMA, his ground game's not the greatest. His wrestling's not the greatest. His striking's okay, but he's a little hittable on the feet, to be honest with you. He's had a tough UFC schedule. Jamal Emmers is fucking good. Sean Woodson is fucking good. So, I mean, no shame in those losses, especially short notice to Sean Woodson. He's rocking a 73% takedown defense. That's not good because Sean Woodson is the one that was taking him down. Jamal Emmers, who has zero power whatsoever, knocked him out in 49 seconds. That's concerning. So he might be low-key chinny. He might not have great wrestling. So that made me go back and just look at his regional scene again. He's not fighting the best competition. He's a little bit of a bully, man. He's guys are 6-4, 7-7, 9-5. Fought a few guys that were 6-1, but I was in the contender series. Sorry, one guy that was 6-1 in contender series. Outside of that, his regional scene 6-4, 7-5. He's not fighting guys with losing records, but he's fighting guys that have like one more win than losses. It's a very, very questionable competition. And I remember over in Dogger Pass podcast when he initially was getting booked against Sean Woodson, they were talking about how his manager takes favorable matchups. So he's cherry picking out there in regards to matchups. I don't like that at all. He's very low volume. So between the low volume, being hittable, hand picking opponents, not a lot to like. His cardio is okay. I've seen it look good. I've seen it look bad. He has a tendency to march forward, which looks good in the judge's eyes, and he will have the crowd behind him. He's 26 years old, so he's only getting better and better. He's at that improving age. So every time we see him, he'll look better. But we just saw him like 5 months ago. It wasn't that long ago. And again, I don't know how much the crowd is going to help him that much. They'll definitely be behind him. It's in Jersey, and he's a New York guy. He's right. He lives very, very close to where this event is. I know the crowd will be with him. Is that going to be enough? I don't know, man. Maybe because Connor Matthews isn't that great either. He's another guy that was on Contender Series multiple times, just like his opponent here in Dennis Bazuka. Connor Matthews lost to Francis Marshall over on the Contender Series, which isn't a terrible loss. I had talked about the Boston Cartel guys taking over. Here's another New England Cartel guy. He has good striking. He himself likes to go forward. This is going to be his UFC debut. Unlike Bazooka, he has pretty high volume, but he's hittable himself. So he'll throw a ton, and he's there to get hit. Like this dude's striking defense is atrocious. Like it's worse than Bazooka's. It's very, very bad. Like he gets hit all the fucking time. And he himself has 50% takedown defense. Not a good takedown defense rate. But offensively, he's a pretty good wrestler. So it's weird. He can take you down and he'll mix in the takedowns. But if you try to take him down, it seems to be easy. You get it half the time. He's predominantly just a pressure striker, just like Bazooka, to be honest with you. His jiu-jitsu's okay, but I think it's a wash. Otherwise, he's just a little bit of a generalist. These guys are essentially carbon copies of one another. Matthews slows down a little more in his fights, but he's throws more volume. So of course he's slowing down a little more. But these guys are the exact same fighter. These guys are going toe to toe. So do you want to bet the plus money or do you want to bet the hometown guy? I'm gonna talk my wallet. I'm gonna bet the plus money. If you're giving me two of the exact same fighter, give me the guy with the plus sign. So the pick is going to be Connor Matthews. The bet's going to be Connor Matthews. Do I feel great about it? No. Am I going to bet it? Absolutely. Next fight of the night, we have Julio Arce at minus 395 going up against Herbert Burns at plus 310. Over under sitting at a smooth 1.5 at a pick 'em here because it's a Herbert Burns fight. So let's say why. Let's start with Herbert Burns. Herbert Burns does really slick jujitsu. He is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, and he is slick down there. Those are the compliments I have. His wrestling's okay, actually. It's not that bad. Like his wrestling's not that bad. He has a 4-inch reach advantage, which is going to be super nice. So I guess he does have some tangible things. It's okay wrestling, great jiu-jitsu, 4-inch reach advantage, great for him. Now the cons. Get your book out. It's a fucking list, man. We got the fact that he has very low volume, the fact that he's very hittable on the feet, the fact that he can't strike, the fact that he's very chinny, the fact that he has sus cardio, the fact that he quits on himself, the fact that he's 36 years old. A lot of cons with Herbert Burns. He is round one sub or bust. Literally. That's all he has. If you make it into the second round, he's gassing. He has nothing left. If you hit this guy, he's crumbling, doesn't like to get touched. And it looks like he has kind of the Hoist Gracie striking where he doesn't really want to hurt you. He knocked out Nate Landwehr by accident. Otherwise, he's really just a suburb bus guy. He's a jiu-jitsu practitioner that is fighting in MMA, but he's not an MMA fighter. He's a jiu-jitsu guy through and through. On the other side, we have Julio Arce, who just in the previous matchup, is a New York guy, so he should have the crowd on his side. I actually saw Julio Arce live in Rochester fight Juicy J, and the crowd was behind Julio, even though it was in Rochester. If you're close enough to the area, the crowd is going to cheer for you. So I can tell you firsthand, the crowd will behind Julio Arce. He's 34 years old. In this matchup, he's coming back up to 145. Now he's been at 145 before, but he's predominantly a 135 pounder. He's fought at 135 like his whole career. Then we saw him fight at 145 against Dan Ige. He fought again. Juicy J was at 145. Hakeem Dawodu was at 145. Like he had a little middle ground there in like 2018 to 2020 where he was fighting 145. Then he went back down to 135 and dismantled Andre Ewell. Then they gave him Song Yadong, which sucks. Then they gave him Daniel Santos, who's a sneaky good fighter, and he got the win there. But then they gave him Mantel Jackson, who's good. So he seems to be a little bit of a barometer test. If you think you're going to be in a top 15, you have to beat Julio Arce. He's a little bit of a gatekeeper. The reason being is because he's a good fighter, man. He has good really good striking. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, so he has a good ground game. He doesn't shoot a lot of takedowns, but he has 95% takedown defense. So he's a pretty decent wrestler. He has good cardio. He seems to love to move forward and pressure. Yeah, man. He seems to do well. And I'll be honest, a 95% takedown defense. Some of that is at 135, and he hasn't fought a lot of grapplers. To be honest with Dan Ige doesn't wrestle. He's a black belt that doesn't wrestle. I mean, Julian Erosa doesn't really wrestle that much. Hakeem Dawodu doesn't wrestle at all. Andre Ewell, Song Yadong, Daniel Santos. None of these guys are wrestlers. So the 95% takedown defense may be a bit skewed. We're going to find out with Herbert Burns. But again, Herbert Burns, he could very well take him down and sub him. Like, he's a much larger man. He could take him down, sub him real fast, and make us all look stupid with this price at minus 400. Or Herbert Burns can be Herbert Burns and go out there, gas himself out, and quit on himself. I'm going to bank on the latter. So I'm going to pick Julio Arce. Can I bet him at this point? No, he's way too wide. You can't bet this fight. If anything, you're taking the over under, and I don't want to play that game with Herbert Burns at all. You can eat some chalk and say, like, fight does not go the distance or under 2.5. You can try doing that with an alt line. That's the only way I'm taking it. The pick is going to be Julio. The bet's going to be probably the alt line of under 2.5 and just eat the chalk. Next fight of the night is one that we're going to go over real quickly because, like 2 weeks ago with Isaac Delgarian and C-Rod. We have my boys against my boys. These are my girls against my girls. I love Big Norm Dumont. I love Verna Jandaroba. I love Lupi Godinez. Those are like my three female fighters, and we have two of them fighting each other. So we're gonna blow past this. I don't want to watch this fight. I'm not betting this fight. I hope they both win. I hope it goes to a draw. How about that? That would be great here. Let's start with Verna at plus 170 going up against Lupita Godinez minus 205, over 2.5 minus 270, under 2.5 plus 200. Let's start with my girl Verna. Verna has really, really, really good jiu-jitsu, world-class black belt. Pretty good wrestling, to be honest with you. The striking leaves a little to be desired. She's a little hittable. She will have a 3 and 3 advantage here, but she doesn't really know how to use it because she's not a good striker. She throws a real low volume. Um, I don't know, man. I've seen her get a lot of I see her shoot a lot of double leg takedowns. Um, Basically exclusively double leg takedowns. Now, does she get some of them? Yes. I've also seen her get a few body locks, and she seems to get the body locks easier, but she only shoots double legs. I'm very perplexed on why she does that. She's a 35-year-old, so age is not on her side. She can slow down and touch in her fights at times. She's really kind of just a I wouldn't say just a jujitsu girl because she can wrestle. So she is a mixed martial arts fighter. She just has no stand up. She's a ground game girl. She would get you down to the ground and she will sub you. She'll get you to the ground. She'll hold you down, whatever she has to do to keep that fight on the ground and get that win. On the other side, we have Loopy, who is a jack of all trades. She's good everywhere. She's a good striker. She has okay jujitsu. It's a little overrated. It's only okay, but she's been training at Lobo MMA or whatever it's called with Diego Lopez and Alexa Grasso. So a pretty BJJ heavy camp. So that's really, really good for her. Her wrestling, her sister's like an Olympic medalist in regards to wrestling or a national champ or something. And she herself is very, very, very good at wrestling. So yeah, she's the whole package. She has okay cardio. She slows a little bit, I'll give her that, but she's okay cardio. She has okay jujitsu. She has good striking. She has really good wrestling. She's an 86% takedown defense, which is going to be big in this matchup as Vern is going to want to take her down to the ground. She's a very, very strong girl. Really, really good double leg takedown defense. I've seen her taken down a few times, but they were all by body locks. She's never been doubled. It's always been body lock. Cynthia Calvia hit a body lock on her. Jessica Panay didn't take her down, but got her body and then climbed her like a tree, and they counted it as a takedown as she just got back control. But everything was from a body lock. And again, Verna only shoots doubles, so that's not good. And people will say Loopy doesn't have good fight IQ because she didn't take down Angela Hill. That shit is so stupid, and it's not thinking it through. Loopy can be trusted. She has a very good fight IQ, and let me tell you why. First and foremost, the Jessica Panay fight, it wasn't so much a fight IQ issue as that she got climbed like a tree and Jessica held on and did absolutely nothing. I think Loopy got screwed. I thought she won that fight, but it is what it is. Shit happens. And it was her UFC debut. The Luana Carolina fight, she tried to wrestle Carolina. Why? Because Carolina has zero ground game whatsoever. She is a terrible, terrible, terrible grappler. So what was Loopy's strategy? Going in on 1 week's notice up a weight class, take her down and sub her. That's a good game plan. Did she execute well? No. Did she keep going for body locks on a really tall, bigger fighter? Yeah, that wasn't the right takedown to do. She should have just shot a double. Why she was body locking, I don't know. But the idea was there. Take down the striker. Good fight IQ. Next fight, Ariana Carnelosi has literal 20% takedown defense. What did she do? She wrestled her and she dominated. Next fight, Angela Hill, again on short notice, again at a catch weight, and Loopy was hurt going into that fight. She had something wrong with her stomach and leg or something like that. Those are important things when it comes to wrestling. So people are saying, why didn't she wrestle Angela Hill? She may not have been able to up a weight class, and the UFC forced her to take that fight. It was in Angela Hill's hometown. Loopy was having issues, and they literally made it a catch weight because Loopy was having issues. So like, well, we'll give you an extra 5 pounds. That'll help you, Loopy. She was not 100%. She couldn't wrestle. So no fault there. Cynthia Calvillo fight, I thought she lost. Plain and simple, I thought she lost. I thought she got out hustled by Cynthia Calvillo, but Judges saw her way because of the power, so that makes up for the Jessica Bonet fight. Emily Ducati, great striker, good wrestler. She was getting the better of the striking, and she stayed with it, and I liked it. She did everything she had to do. Elise Reed, terrible grappler. What did she do? She took her down and she subbed her. Tabitha Ricci, really good grappler. What did she do? She struck with her. Like, she doesn't have bad fight IQ. She's doing everything she's supposed to do. It had one fight against Angela Hill that she was forced to take while ill, and everyone has written her off as bad fight IQ from there. Because of this long rant, fuck it. I'm going Loopy. Fuck the world. I love Verna. I hope it's a draw. But the pick is going to be Loopy. The bet's going to be Loopy because of her fight IQ. Next fight of the night. We are looking at Nate the Train. Woo woo. Plus 180 going up against Jamal Emmers at minus 220. Over 2.5 is minus 140. Under 2.5 at plus 110. God, let's just start with Nate the Train. Nate the Train has good striking. He has sneaky good jiu-jitsu. He trains over at MMA Masters. They all have a pretty good ground game. His wrestling's okay. It's not good, it's not bad, it's serviceable. It's really good cardio. That's the best part of his game, is his cardio and his volume. He throws a ton of volume all in the octagon. But what I can say is that he's a 35-year-old featherweight, and that chin is starting to go. We saw him drop multiple times in the Dan Ige fight. We saw him drop multiple times against David Onama. We saw him knocked out against Julian Rosa. We saw him, God, this hurts to say, knocked out by Herbert Burns. Like, that chin is starting to go. Is it because he's 35 years old? Probably. It could also be because he has a history of the gear. The dude has been on the sauce before. He came over to the UFC. You have USADA there. And USADA Nate Landwehr was not the same as overseas Russian Nate Landwehr. Russian Nate Landwehr could have been champion of the world. Like, that guy was nuts. But clean Nate Landwehr, he's still okay. He's still a good fighter. But all of a sudden he's getting knocked out by Herbert Burton. So I think that's a little suspect. Is this going to be his first fight without USADA? Yeah, that scares me. We see guys like OSP find the Fountain of Youth, aka the Needle, and it seems to help. So, is Nate the Train a possible live dog? Because honestly, maybe he's on the gear again. Yeah, absolutely. Probably have the crowd behind him as well. Fans love Nate the Train. He gives good promos. He's just a wild card. He's a wild man. But the better man and the better fighter is Jamal Emmers, hands down. Jamal Emmers has all the talent to be world champion. But unlike Loopy, he has the fight IQ. His fight IQ is god awful. He has a 4-inch reach advantage. He's 34 years old. He has good striking. He has good wrestling, college wrestler. He just got his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, very good on the ground. He throws a ton of volume. He has really good cardio. He has fought a good level of competition. Like, everything screams Jamal Emmers. Like, Jamal Emmers is literally the better striker, the better jiu-jitsu practitioner, the better wrestler, has just as good cardio. What could go wrong? Well, first and foremost, he missed weight last time, so be cognizant of that. Also, his fight IQ. I alluded to it earlier. Ugh, God, it's so bad. We saw him go up against, well, he knocked out Dennis Bazooka in 40 seconds, which isn't like him. He's not normally a one-hitter quitter. We saw him strike with Jack Jenkins for 2 rounds and then go, you know what? These are close. Let me take him down. And he took Jack Jenkins down easily and dominated round 3. Why he didn't do that the first 2 rounds, I have no fucking clue. And he lost split decision being fucking stupid. Pat Sabatini, he dropped. Eyes rolling in the back of Pat Sabatini's head. Pat had no idea where he was. Did he let him up and drop him again? No. What did he do? He went down to the ground and went for a leg lock with Pat Sabatini and played footsies. What happened? Pat woke up and snapped his fucking leg off. Stupid, stupid decision. You're striking with strikers. You're grappling with grapplers. Giga Jukadze is a top 10 guy in the weight class. It was his UFC debut, and he is a glory kickboxer. This is in 2020. All Giga knew was striking. Giga doesn't know how to grapple. Giga doesn't have a good gas tank. Giga has no idea what a takedown is. What does the college wrestler do? Strikes with the world class kickboxer. What the fuck, Jamal? And what happens? He loses the first round, a close second round, and then decides to wrestle in the third round. And guess what? Sure as shit, he wins the third round, dominating with wrestling. Why he didn't wrestle the whole time, I have no fucking clue, because it's Jamal Emmers and he's gonna do stupid stuff. Jamal Emmers could be world fucking champion. He's that good, but he does the dumbest stuff. He cannot be trusted. Good news is Nate is just physically dumb. And I think Jamal has him outgunned and everywhere. Now, don't get me wrong. If Nate is on the sauce, Jamal's in trouble. But if he's not, it's Jamal all day. So the pick is going to be Emmers. The bet's going to be Emmers. The line's appropriate. But check weigh-ins. If Nate looks extra jacked for some reason at weigh-ins, abort ship. Get the fuck out of there. Nate the Train is coming with some juice in his back or something. I have no idea. All right, next fight of the night is just more sketchiness. This one's not about steroids. This one's about weight classes again. We have Chidi Injikawani at -150 going up against Reese McKee at +125. Over, under at 1.5. Over 1.5 +120, under 1.5 -150. The reason it's greasy is because this fight is at 170. Yeah, Chidi Injikawani, for some godforsaken reason, is cutting back down to 170 after like 10 years. Chidi is really, really good striking. He's a very, very powerful man. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage in this matchup. He has sneaky good jiu-jitsu. He is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. He's very good on the ground, but he can't wrestle to save his life. Like, he has 67% takedown defense. And offensively, I don't think he's ever gotten a takedown in the UFC offensively off of the fights I've watched. I don't know, man. He starts really fast and he gets really fast knockouts. But if you weather the storm, this dude's cardio is terrible. He will gas. We've seen it time and time again. We've also seen him struggle to make weight, even at 185. So how he's going to make 170, I have no idea. All in all, Chidi's a really good striker, really good on the ground, but he can't wrestle and he has no cardio. So, and he's a little bit of a quitter. We saw Michael Chaychuk break him. We saw Albert Duraev break him. We saw Gregory Rodriguez break him. All of his losses here in the UFC, he was winning all of them, and then they didn't go away, and he didn't know what to do. He panics, and he just kind of gives the fight away. I don't like that. He's got to put you away early, or he breaks himself. On the other side, we have Reese McKee, who is literally his kryptonite. Reese McKee has good striking, ton of volume. He's only 28 years old. His biggest claim to fame is being durable, and most of his wins are late. Why? You beat the absolute shit out of Reese McKee. He's very, very hittable, easy to hit, and sometimes even gets rocked. He will get rocked from time to time, and then it wakes him up and he comes at you and he ends up finishing you in the second or third round because you're gassed out. The dude's cardio is very, very good. He's one of these guys that's a very slow starter. You beat the shit out of him, and then he weaponizes his cardio and comes at you and finishes you. Exactly what happens to Chidi all the time. Now, is Reese going to get knocked out early? With how hittable he is? Yeah, he very well could. He may not have a chance to rally because he's unconscious on the floor, because Chidi is a massive, massive welterweight. Might be the biggest welterweight. He's like 6'4". Like, this dude's huge and jacked. Not just a string bang like Reese. Reese is very, very skinny. Chidi is jacked and 6'3". So good luck on that. But if he does survive, Reese is going to eat his lunch. Like, Reese is going to kill him in round 2 and 3. Chidi's going to die after 4 minutes. Like, and not because of anything Reese did, because his body will not hold up longer than 4 minutes. So, if anything, I'm probably looking at the under, but it's juiced to 1.5, and the under is -150. Vegas knows. The world knows that it's going to be an under. If you want to pick a side, I'll pick Chidi because I think he could start Reese, but you got to bet the dog in this matchup. It's a dog or pass situation. Or you can do it again, eat chalk, and take the alt line at under 2.5. There's not a shot this thing goes over 2.5. Chidi's body won't allow him to do it. So the pick is going to be Chidi. The bet is going to be the under 2.5, and just cover yourself on both ends. Eat the chalk. Next fight of the night. Speaking of chalk, this sounds scary, but it's probably the fight I'm most confident in. We have Bill Algeo at -230 going up against Kyle Nelson at +175. Over under at 2.5. Over 2.5 at -230. Under 2.5 at +190. Let's start with Kyle Nelson. Kyle Nelson is someone that has been winning me money left and right. He's always a +200 underdog, and he's always coming through, man. Kyle Nelson is not that bad. He has good striking. His wrestling's not good. It's not bad. It's just kind of he's just very strong, so he's hard to take down. And he's not the greatest wrestler, but he'll hold you in one spot. He's good at just stalling. Really, he just grabs you and stalls as long as he can. And then as soon as he's done stalling, he'll hit you with a nasty combination and then just grab a hold of you and stall again. He does it continually over and over and over. His jiu-jitsu doesn't look the greatest, but he has good fight IQ. He boxes a ton. He doesn't kick that much, but his cardio is his issue. He's hittable. He's lower volume, and his cardio is not good at all. I've seen it. Like people are gonna say, it looks better. It looks better when he's not forced to grapple at all. When it's just him holding you, that's one thing. But if he actually has to work in the grappling, he gasses out. He's very, very tired. Luckily on this little win streak where I've been riding him, Padilla, who has gotten much better. I'll give him that. I bet against him last week, and that was a mistake. But Fernando Padilla can't wrestle, will not wrestle. I knew that'd be a striking fight, and Kyle is not as exhausting striking for 15 compared to grappling. And he did exactly what he needed to do, and he got the win. Blake Builder is a terrible offensive wrestler. He was able to sprawl, do what he needed to do, and he got the win on the feet. Dohu Choi. I bet Kyle Nelson. I think I got lucky with that draw. There was a point deduction, and we got lucky. So it is what it is. Um, Jai Herbert. I was all over Jai Herbert. That was a weird fight, to be honest with you. Jai might have lost that, but they gave it to Kyle Nelson, and I'm not complaining. And then we have the Billy Q fight. And he looked good in round one, and then he gassed out, and Billy Q beat the absolute shit out of him because he weaponized cardio, and he just could not keep up with the pace of Billy Q. Billy Q and Bill Algeo are oftentimes like they get flip-flopped and no one knows which one is which for some reason. Like they accidentally get called each other all the time. Why? Not because they look alike, but because both their names are Bill and they fight the exact same way. Bill Algeo is a terrible wrestler. I'll give Billy Q's a little bit of a better wrestler. But when it comes to striking and jujitsu, they're both high volume black belts on the ground and have just ungodly cardio. You want to talk about weaponized cardio? Like I don't even see Bill Algeo breathe out his mouth. He's breathing out his nose his entire time. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage, so he'll be able to fight long if he needs to, and just paw at him. He doesn't really have any power. He's not out there knocking guys out unless you're Herbert Burns and fighting. Outside of that, a lot of decisions. But he has a few. We saw him tap out TJ Brown. It's nice to finally see him get a different finish there, and especially the ground game because he is a black belt. Um, he has a 56% takedown defense. That's terrible. You take him down if you want him down. The thing is, I don't think Kyle Nelson wants him down. I think he just wants to hold you. I don't think he actually wants to take you down. If he takes him down, Bill Algeo is the better jiu-jitsu practitioner. He'll either just get up or he might sub him. So if anything, Kyle Nelson wants to land the bigger strikes on the feet. But Bill Algeo throws so much fucking volume with his pitter pattering. It's going to drive Kyle Nelson crazy, and it's going to gas him out. He's going to want to grab a hold of him, and it's going to gas him out wrestling Bill Algeo. And I think it's going to be the Billy Q fight all over again. Kyle's going to want to land hard. He's going to keep getting pawed in the face, get agitated, try to take him down, get tired using the wrestling game, and then get finished in round 2 or 3. I think we're going to see the exact same thing. We've seen this fight before against a Bill. It's going to be no different. The pick is going to be Bill Algeo. The bet's going to be Algeo. He's one of our guys. You don't turn your back on your boys. Next fight of the night is one that I did not expect to be one of the Twitter fights of the week, but here we are, back-to-back Twitter debate of the week. We have Nursultan Rizboev at -260 going up against Cedric Dumas at +210. Over under at 1.5. Over 1.5 at +115. Under 1.5 at -145. Let's start with Dumbass. He sucks, man. He's not good. You would see him as a striker, contingent on his record, all the knockouts, and how he looks. He's not that great of a striker, to be honest with you. It's a little sloppy, a little slow. Um, he's rocking a 40% takedown defense. That's awful. His jujitsu is terrible. It's very, very sloppy on the ground. He has a good guillotine. I'll give him that. I've seen him go for front choke a lot, but he's tall and lanky and has these really like lanky arms. He has the perfect arms for like a guillotine or Darce or any of those front choke series. And he's good at that. I'll give him that. And his cardio seems to be good. It checks out. It checked out against Abu Azatar. It checked out against Cody Brundage. He seems to be able to go a full 15. He probably will have the cardio advantage here, to be honest with you. But whenever he does get taken down, he gives his back to get up. That's not good if you're fighting someone that's really, really good on the ground. He's a little hittable. We don't know where his head's at with all of his legal issues. He has a legal issue every 6 weeks. He has something going on here, so God knows. I think the last one was domestic violence or something like that. And again, for someone that's supposed to be a good striker, he is very hittable on the feet. Um, I don't know, man. Uh, he's just not that good. He's very sloppy and everything. He's new. I mean, don't get me wrong. His level of competition isn't good, but he's only been fighting pro since 2018. So it's only been 6 years, and you can tell he's only been fighting for 5 or 6 years. Just like I said about Benoit Saint Denis, he's just very raw. You can see when these guys are learning on the job, and that's exactly what Dumbass is doing. He's learning on the job. And the last thing I will say is that he gets really bad reactions, just like some of these other guys. If you touch him, he like freaks out and backs up, and it does not look good to the judges at all. On the other side, I was ready to back up the Brinks truck for Rozabayev until I went back. I watched the fight tape and remembered he's not that good. He's kind of overrated. Don't get me wrong. He looks the part. He trains. He's another Philly Gracie guy. So he has a good jiu-jitsu game, and most of his wins are by sub, to be honest with you. He has a very, very, very good ground game. His striking's not bad. It's serviceable. But I'm concerned about his wrestling. His wrestling looks terrible. Like I am not kidding you. I'm not being cocky. I will take this man down. Like his wrestling looked terrible, and his offensive wrestling looked terrible. Lucky for him, he's probably the better striker here. And if this does hit the ground or Dumbass takes him down, he can probably just sub him from his guard. But if Dumbass is able to just like stay away from him for a little bit and come at him later on, I think Rozabayev's gas tank is sketchy. Like it's very sketchy. He has what 6 career losses, eight career losses. 6 of them were by decision because he gassed out. Like the dude does not have good cardio whatsoever. He loves to move forward, which is good because Dumas will back up. But if Dumbass takes him down, which he's been taking people down as of late, Rozabayev will play guard. Do I think he'll submit him off his back? Yes. Do I think if Rozabayev gets on top, Dumas is fucked because he gives up his back to get up? Yes. But if Dumbass takes him down and Rozabayev can't get the sub right away, he plays guard way too much. There's no urgency to get up. He's the better striker, but Dumbass has never been knocked out before. I don't know, man. Rosenbai is very aggressive, but it's not that technical. It's not that good. He's there to get got. Like, don't forget, yeah, he won his UFC debut against Bruno Ferreira, but Bruno was like a minus 330 favorite. He was over a plus 250 dog for a reason. Like people don't believe in this guy. He's also has a very suspect level of competition. He fights a lot of bums. So yeah, I don't know, man. This guy, he's not what I thought it was. I thought he looks the part and his record shows the part, but you cannot Wikipedia, you cannot use tapology math for these fighters. You have to actually watch them. And it's really just his wrestling, man. His wrestling scares the shit out of me. It's bad. Like it's very bad. Is it going to get better training with Sean Brady and Joe Pfeiffer? God, I hope so. If it does, this guy's going to be a killer. If his wrestling is still what I saw in the past, he's in some trouble here. I'll still pick Rozabayev. I'll still probably parlay Rozabayev with a few things, but it's not as confident as it should be. Pick is Rozabayev, bet is Rozabayev. Next fight of the night's another one that's pretty much locked in. I don't want to do it, but I feel obligated to. We have Bruno Silva at minus 285, going up against Chris Weidman at plus 230. Over under sitting at 2.5, over 1.5, over 1.5 minus 120. under 1.5 at -110. This one we don't have to spend long on because Chris Weidman's done, man. Chris Weidman's like 40 years old. Is he 39 or 40? He's 39 years old. He's going to have the hometown crowd behind him, which is nice. Uh, that's it. He has good jujitsu and okay wrestling. I'll give him that. But he has good jiu-jitsu and okay wrestling as of 10 years ago. 39-year-old Chris Weidman, the game has changed in the last 10 years. His striking's not good. He'll have a 4-inch reach advantage, which is nice. But he's chinny, man. He's very chinny. He has 7 career losses, and he's been knocked out 6 times. And honestly, the 7th time, Brad Tavares could have knocked him out, but he felt bad for the old man and let him survive in Madison Square Garden. So I don't really count that, to be honest with you. He has good cardio. Um, and he has a good level of competition. But Jesus Christ, he's chinny and he's old and he's fragile. He's coming back off of that horrific leg injury to Uriah Hall that was supposed to end his career. He wanted to prove a point that he could come back, and he did. And he looked terrible. Like he looked really, really, really bad. They're giving him one more fight because it's in his hometown. I think this is a mistake. I think he needs to retire. And I think he's definitely going to retire after he gets absolutely nuked by Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva is not good by any means. And Bruno Silva has one thing, and that is power. This guy has 23 wins and like 20 knockouts. Like this dude hits hard. He has good striking, a ton of power, good fight IQ. I point that back to the Pereira fight when he fought the champ Alex Pereira and decided to wrestle a little bit. He just uses all the tools and he needs to. He did the same thing with Chara, whatever, the one-eyed guy. I thought he won that fight, to be honest with you. I had money on Chara, and I thought Bruno Silva won that fight and got robbed because it was in Chara's debut in his hometown. So I do think he got robbed there. The Brendan Allen fight, he got dominated, but Brendan Allen is a top 5 guy in the weight class. Gerald Meerschaert, he gassed out and got subbed, and then he lost to the champ and Alex Pereira. So he lost to the champ, Gerald Meerschaert, who's a top 15 guy, savvy vet. Brendan Allen, a top 5 guy, and then got a screw job decision. On the other side, his wins, he beat Wellington Turman. He beat and who I don't think is in the promotion anymore, and if he still is, he's at welterweight now. Andrew Sanchez is no longer in the promotion. Jordan Wright is no longer with the promotion, and Brad Tavares, who has been knocked out a few times in a row now. So his wins are not good. His losses are very good. Who is the true Bruno Silva? He's somewhere in the middle. He has 73% takedown defense. His jiu-jitsu is not great. But outside of that, this is a good setup spot for him. Um, they're not giving Weidman someone with mostly knockouts to help Weidman. This is to help Silva. I think this is a thank you to Silva for fighting Alex Pereira, for fighting Brendan Allen, which I think was on short notice, and for fighting Sharapova or whatever the one-eyed guy was in his hometown. I think they're giving Silva a thank you fight, and they're going to let him basically murder a man legally. So yeah, the pick is going to be Bruno Silva. The bet's going to be Bruno Silva by murder. And that's that. Sorry, Chris Weidman. I think you're a great fighter. I think you're a great guy. I think it's time to retire. Next fight of the night is one I keep going back and forth with, and then I've just decided, fuck this. I'm going to stick to what I need to do with Vicente Luque and Joaquin Buckley being a straight pick 'em at -110, over 2.5 plus 130, under 2.5 -166. And honestly, fuck it. Vicente Luque is winning this fight. Let's start with Vicente Luque. He has good striking. He has good jiu-jitsu. Apparently has good wrestling against RDA. We saw it's not that great. Let's not get it out of control. But it's serviceable wrestling. His takedown defense he needs to work on 65%. But again, he has really good cardio, good get-up game, and a good ground game when he gets down there. So he's perfectly fine. On the feet, he wants to pressure you and go to war. Now, is he going to do that against Buckley? I don't know, mainly because he almost died the last time he did that. He went to war with Jeff Neal and got KO'd and had that brain bleed ordeal where he literally almost died. Um, I don't know, man. He's fought a really good level of competition. He has really high volume. Um, his chin is starting to go, and he's a little hittable because he gets into all these wars. On paper, he's 32. In fight years, he's 42. He just takes an absolute beating in every single one of his fights. It's starting to catch up with him. But what I will say is two things. One, he mentioned in his interview at Media Day that he was born in New Jersey, so he will have the crowd behind him. So you have the volume fighter with the crowd behind him. I know went against that before, but he also has the better jiu-jitsu. So he has more advantages here, basically everywhere, and the crowd. So I do like that. Secondly, this is very reminiscent to me as the Benoit Saint Denis versus Dustin Poirier fight. Benoit Saint Denis fought Thiago Moises, who was an okay fighter. It was, and he went out there and dominated him. And then all of a sudden, he called out Benoit Saint Denis called out basically Thiago Moises' big brother and Dustin Poirier. They're training partners. They're at the same gym. They hang out all the time. They're good friends. Dustin is higher ranked, so he beat the little brother, and now he's calling out the big brother. And then the big brother came and whooped that ass. Same scenario here. Joaquin Buckley fought Andre Fiorot, and Fiorot trains at Kill Cliff FC. Where does Luque fight? Kill Cliff FC. He went out there and he knocked out Andre Fiallo. And what did he do? He called out Big Brother Luque. And here he comes, baby, taking a fight that is honestly beneath him, just like Dustin Poirier just did. This is the exact same scenario playing out. The crowd was behind DP. The crowd is going to be behind Vicente Luque. How does Buckley win this fight? By KO. That's the only way. Buckley has decent striking, and he hits decently hard, especially at 170. He spent most of his career at 185 in the UFC, came down to 170 and hasn't lost since dropping down to 170. He's looked good there, man. We all knew he had power. He has sneaky good wrestling, but he himself doesn't have the greatest takedown defense. His is 65%. His jiu-jitsu is not good whatsoever. It's actually very bad. And he does have a propensity to slow down in his fights. I've seen it look good before, but he generally slows down in his fights, especially if he has to throw a lot of volume or has to wrestle a lot. He does slow down. So at the end of the day, he has to go out there and he is knockout or bust. He is KO or bust. Can he KO old man Luque? Absolutely. But what do I think is going to happen? I think he's going to get big brothered by Luque, just like BSD did against Dustin Poirier. The pick is going to be the experienced Luque. The bet's going to be the experienced Luque. And that takes us to the main event. If you haven't already, fuck are you doing? Hit the subscribe, hit the like button, share the video, tell a friend. Let's get the Stats and Stacks podcast moving. We have Aaron Blanchfield at minus 185 going up against Manon Fiorot at plus 155. Over under at 4.5. Over 4.5 at minus 160, under 4.5 at plus 125. Let's start with Fiorot. She's someone I like, man. Someone I saw live. She's 34 years old, so she's not young. She's not a spring chicken. She has an okay schedule. She's fought Rose, a former champ, down a weight class. She fought Caitlin Chikagian, a perennial top 5 girl. She fought Jennifer Maia, who fought for the title once. Mayra Bueno Silva, who just fought for the 135-pound title. So pretty decent schedule here. Tabitha Ricci. Good fights here for her. She has really good world-class striking. Like, she hits decently hard. She's not knocking out as many people as I thought she would. She knocked out Ricci, who was going up a weight class on a few days' notice. Outside of that, she's decisioning everybody. But she's a good striker. She has 91% takedown defense against who? Again, not the greatest wrestler. She knocked out Ricci right away. And then Bueno Silva and Jennifer Maia are really good jiu-jitsu practitioners, but they can't wrestle to save their lives. So 91%, that number might be skewed, like we talked about Julio Arce earlier. This is going to be her first 5-round fight, so that's important here. And her jiu-jitsu is probably a little questionable. Her first loss was to Leah McCourt. And Leah McCourt was an old UFC girl who's not the greatest, but tried to wrestle. So she got out grappled. She got grapple fucked by Leah McCourt in her very first ever career MMA fight, and then has won 11 straight. But 11 straight against who? 11 straight against strikers. Again, even in the UFC, she fought again She fought Victoria Leonardo, who's a karate striker, Myra Bueno Silva, who's a jiu-jitsu girl that can't wrestle, Jennifer Maya, jiu-jitsu girl that can't wrestle, Caitlin Chikagian, a striker, Rose Thug Namajunas, a 115-pound generalist who can do everything, but had a broken hand and was up a weight class and predominantly struck in a close fight. These fights were not cakewalks. Caitlin Chikagian was a close fight. I thought Manon won, but it was close. Rose was a close fight. I locked Manon that fight because Rose doesn't wrestle that much. And Rose didn't try to wrestle, and it was still a close fight. Like, Manon is a great striker, but she is not so world class that you can't keep pace with her. If Aaron tries to do that, I think Aaron will lose. Aaron's not the greatest striker. She's not bad, but that is not her bread and butter. Her bread and butter is her jujitsu, and that's where it gets tricky. Because we just heard about Myra Bueno Silva, we just heard about Jennifer Maya, where they're jujitsu girls, but they couldn't get Manon down. Well, they didn't even really try because they can't wrestle at all. Aaron will at least try. I used to think she was a really, really, really good wrestler. They called her Erin Blanchfield for a while. Gave her an OV because she dominated Miranda Maverick. But the more she goes up in competition, the worse her wrestling is getting. Their main thing is her jujitsu and her cardio. Her cardio is apparently godly. It looks very, very good. Her last fight against Tyler Santos, she won a split decision, or sorry, unanimous decision over Tyler Santos strictly on cardio. She shot 14 takedowns. She went 0 of 14, but she weaponized those takedowns not to get them, but to tire out her opponent and then outstrike Tyler Santos. Like, it was a world-class game plan, very, very high fight IQ. She'll have a 2-inch reach advantage here, which is surprising to me. Again, she's 24 years old, and this is in her hometown, so she's gonna be amped up. She'll have the whole crowd behind her. She's fought a good level of competition herself. Tyler Santos is probably the best fighter out of anyone either of them fought. Jessica Andrade is a former champion, and she's tapped her out and dominated on the feet. Molly Meatball McCann is all right. JJ Aldridge is all right. That fight scared me. That fight, she was losing until she got that choke. So that fight could look similar to this one. So that's the big red flag fight. Sarah Alpar's trash, but she fought Tracy Cortez prior to the UFC. So, like, she's fought a very good level of competition, and she's beat everyone. Brogan Walker's in the UFC, Victoria and Leonardo's in the UFC. That's a common opponent, and they both beat her by head kick. Go figure. And in that Tracy Cortez fight, I thought Aaron won. I thought that was one of the worst robberies I've ever seen. Aaron Blanchfield is truly undefeated. Kay Hansen was in the UFC. Brittany Cloudy's very good. Like, she's fought nothing but good girls. I'm looking at her regional scene, and all these girls are in the UFC or are like one fight away from being in there. Like, I know these names. So at the end of the day, she's a very, very good fighter, great jiu-jitsu practitioner. If this hits the ground, she will smoke Manon. She will absolutely tap her out with ease. If this stays on the feet, Manon probably pieces her up and makes it look very easy. If you mix in takedowns, that could get interesting on the gas tanks. Erin Blanchfield's never gone 5 rounds. She's been scheduled for 5, but it never made it that far. So what is going to happen? Do you take the cardio and jujitsu and okay wrestling, or do you take the good takedown defense, questionable cardio, and great striking? Are you striker or grappler? Let's say cardio's a wash. What are you doing? Again, historically, I'm going to take the grappler. And here in her hometown, I'm going to take the grappler with the reach advantage. That's just what I'm going to do. So the pick is going to be Erin Blanchfield. The bet's going to be Erin Blanchfield. That 91% takedown defense was great for Manon Fiorot, but we've never seen her fight a wrestler. Now we saw Erin Blanchfield fight JJ and struggle with someone with good takedown defense, but she still found a way to win, and now you're giving her 5 rounds to do so. I'm going to keep riding the train, and I'm not going to turn my back on my girl Aaron. So the pick is Aaron, the bet is Aaron, and that's UFC Atlantic City. It's going to be a fun night. I think it's a pretty chalk heavy night, which watch dogs come out the woodwork everywhere. But as long as we hit our locks, as long as we make money, it's going to be a great, great night. Let's get after it.